Well, it's certainly a menace to his career. After all, Twitter is where links to audio recordings revealed Turkiye's Prime Minister Erdogan telling his son to move millions in cash out of his house. In fact, Erdogan has been quoted as saying this thing called social media is the worst menace to society. So this week, he turned Twitter off. But will the backlash be worth it?
No Twitter in Turkey starting Thursday. That is the latest decree by the Erdogan government. The Prime Minister has threatened to wipe out social media because they ignored various Turkish court orders. Authorities have blocked access to Twitter.
Turkey's future is not bright. We cannot even talk to people on the street about this issue.
So the Prime Minister of Turkey basically banned Twitter because he didn't like what people were saying about him, but very quickly, the citizens of Turkey figured out ways around it.
Just like many others, President Abdullah Gül managed to work around the firewall and tweeted, "I hope this ban will not last long." The White House has expressed its concern over the ban to the Turkish government.
The United States is deeply concerned that the Turkish government has blocked its citizens' access to basic communication tools. We oppose this restriction on the Turkish people's access to information, which undermines their ability to exercise freedoms of expression and association and runs contrary to the principles of open governance that are critical to democratic governance and the universal rights.
The ban comes as the most damaging information on the graft scandal against the Prime Minister is leaked via Twitter.
Bu sorumsuzluk Twitter'a ait.
Dee Dee Benkie, Paul Oster, Mustafa Tabanli, and Dr. Allan Topol are with us to continue our discussions about Turkey's Twitter ban. So I'm going to start off with you, Mustafa. You are both a journalist and you're also a Turkish citizen.
Yes.
Talk to me about what people are saying overseas about this. I mean, I don't think everybody, obviously nobody's, not everyone is in agreement with this.
And also, even from the AKP, and there are a lot of people still tweeting. They find a way around. And the idea was not really to ban the Twitter, but to find out who are leaking those information. And at the same time, having a profiling going on. There has been a extended law that gave MIT, which is NSA of Turkey, big rights to profile citizens. So now they want to profile the citizens of Turkey, and they want Twitter to release those information, and Twitter is not giving them. That's the problem. They are asking Twitter, who is leaking those information? Give us their IP address, give us their address. Let's find them. Twitter is saying no.
Dee Dee, I know that you would have a tough time with not being able to tweet over there, and also Twitter turned 8 this week as well. But just your thoughts.
I think this guy has lost his mind. I mean, this was the worst political move he could have ever made. 10 million Turkish folks on Twitter, and they're furious. I mean, so, you know, if you really wanted to jump the shark and get booted out, I tell you what, I think this is the beginning of the end for this guy. I mean, because Turkey's a great country. I mean, look what he's trying to do to. The people there are wonderful. They want their Twitter, and they should be able to have their freedom. They should be able to have freedom of speech. Shame on him.
Well, this is the latest ban to censor free speech, especially with the journalists as well. They booted one of the journalists out of the country even.
And also there is a more careful move, actually. Like Erdogan controls maybe 30% of media right now, because there are some bankrupt television stations that were acquired by the state, and then he gave them to those contractor that gets public housing contracts, and now they have this shady deals going on with dollars and monies and transported with the cash and in the bags, etc. So for example, he's making a move with Yandex, a Russian search engine, and the head of Yandex in Turkey is actually very close relative to Erdogan. So he wants to control the information.
Control everything. Control all
everything.
Information.
But you also made a great point as well, that Erdogan's, I guess, idol, you might say, is Vladimir Putin of all people.
Yes.
So, except Turkey doesn't have the oil reserves.
Yeah, that tells you a lot. Wow, that's a great idol there.
Let's check in with Allan Topol in Washington, D.C. Allan.
I think there's something sad about the whole thing, Mia. I mean, first of all, the Turkish people are obviously wonderful people and have a great democracy. And Erdogan did lots of wonderful stuff in terms of the economy and developing the economy. But at the same time, increasingly, he's gotten more and more authoritarian. There are now probably more journalists in prison in Turkey than there are even in China. And this latest move just shows his leadership has run its course. And hopefully he will be bringing himself down with this move, because he's wiping out all the good things he's done and just exposing an authoritarian figure. And I think it's time for a change. And if this latest Twitter maneuver, which seems ridiculous, it's like he's lost his mind doing it, if this helps to bring down his power, I think it'd be a good thing.
And it also looks like he's ruling out of fear, is the way I would say it as well. I mean, he's fearful of this, where Twitter could certainly be your friend.
It's very paranoid.
Especially with young people.
Well, yeah, because 10 million people, you know, to take away their Twitter, to take away their freedom of speech, I mean, you know, it's got to be the beginning of the end for him. And, you know, here's the other thing with this guy. I mean, he really did do some good things in the beginning, and now he's completely wiping that out. And we're days away from that election, the municipal election, so hopefully that will be a good day.
That's going to be a very clear indication as to how the Turkish people feel. Paul, obviously, this is obvious for an economic standpoint as well, though. I mean, it's a big business, social media.
It is. And when you talk days away from the election, why did he do it? What's his motives? It's not because he has lots of good news.
Yeah, exactly.
Something's about to break, and whether it's economic or just something that happened, you know, corruption in the government, you know, you can't, you know, controlling social media is...
It's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen. That's right.
It's just not going to happen.
They'll always find a way.
Well, in fact, the head of Twitter actually sent out a notice to tell people how to get on there and be able to tweet.
Yeah. Even the president is tweeting. So, so it wasn't really about shutting down the Twitter. If he had more options, he would not do so. Yeah, and he wants to find who is leaking those informations about him.
He's not opposed to the medium. He's opposed to the people having the power.
No, but it's all the journalists as well, the mainstream journalists. They've been imprisoned as well, as we heard Allan talk about. But you know, just this past week, somebody from today's Zaman was booted out, and so it seems to be, whether it's mainstream media or social media, he
just wants to shut down anything negative about him, and it's not going to happen.
I mean, it's a dictatorship, basically.
Yeah, exactly. That's what dictators do.
And also, I really like the U.S. position, because there's a lot of resentment about big corporation and Wall Street in Turkey. There has been some time similar to mortgage crisis here. There was some time the hedge funds came in, and there are lots of things going on. So United States is not taking a political position. They're emphasizing we are with the people, people's right to information, whether they are from AKP or opposition party. That's a wonderful stand, because if you are siding with the opposition party, it's going to do good to Erdogan. They're saying, you see, big money, they want to get your money, and they want to control your funds, etc.
Well, Mustafa, you're both a Turkish citizen and a journalist, as we discussed. What are your predictions with these upcoming elections?
Well, like Dee Dee is saying, I mean, he's doing some crazy things, and there must be, like you said, there must be something pretty bad he's hiding, and we just don't know yet. I mean, there is a 1 week, and lots can change right now. And these are municipality elections, but municipality controls the construction works, where the dollars pour in, and then those dollars get funneled into other media or non-profit organizations.
The most local elections, it'll be very telling.
Well, let's check in with Allan Topol. And Allan, what are your thoughts about these upcoming elections?
Right. What I wonder, if to some extent, is whether Erdogan is playing off the big cities, particularly Istanbul, against the smaller rural areas of the country. That's where his support is, in the smaller rural areas. That's where the whole Twitter thing is going to make less, they're going to have less involvement with Twitter. And so I wonder if he's just gambling and saying, writing off the big cities, writing off that secular vote, and saying, hey, I will keep my power base notwithstanding this, and so I will survive.
But in the long run, do you think that this is... No, it's a great thought, but in the long run, do you think this is also hurting Turkey's reputation on a global market?
Absolutely, no question about it. And also, remember, they've applied for membership in the EU, and they're going through that EU dance, and this is going to hurt them seriously there, because it destabilizes the country from an economic standpoint as well.
And certainly some of the headlines, international headlines over in Germany, one of the headlines was Turkey turns away from democracy. So,
well, the leader, you know, I think it's a lot unfair to say the reputation of Turkey. I think the representation or the reputation of this guy, not the Turkish people.
Yeah,
I don't think we're there yet.
They are fighting back.
Yeah, the people are fighting back. I think everyone thinks the Turkish people are great, so I don't think it's good to throw them in a mix. It's the guy. This is a bad guy. I mean, it's not right to take away people's freedom of speech.
absolutely. Final thoughts before we go to our next segment.
Well, I think there are some new things that are going to come up, but I want to make a comment that the metropole areas are very critical in terms of the money, because he gets money from the contracts, and then those money goes to favorable media organizations as an advertisement. So that's how he turns the wheels. So if he loses the big cities, it's going to be very tough for him to bring new dollars.
Okay, great points. Paul, any final thoughts?
Well, I would say he's probably already lost them, right? I mean,
Yeah.
at this point, you know, you can't take away the freedom of speech in a country that's had that privilege for sure, and right, I should say, not a privilege, and he's trying to do that. So he's the one who's trying to take away the
Turkey's
democracy.
a big rock star country. It's a wonderful country. I think it's going to have big backlash.
We'll certainly be watching this and be talking about it next week. Thanks so much for being on this segment, and we have a lot more coming up on Fresh Outlook. The lightning round is next.